guys, so welcome back to Lex Reads. So in today's video, we're actually going to be talking about some historical fiction books. I realized this year I read a good amount, and historical fiction is now like slowly becoming my favorite genre. I remember when I was in school, like history was my favorite subject, and then my favorite genre of reading is fiction. So it's like the perfect match. Now I'm gonna break them down in categories. I have four that I did read and four that I want to read. So yeah, let's just get started. Okay, the first historical fiction book I read this year was actually an anticipated read for me. This author is probably one of my favorites now, and it is Sadeqa Johnson, The House of Eve. Sadeqa used to write contemporary fiction, and then when she came out with Yellow Wife, it blew up, and now she is a historical fiction novelist. And when I tell you, she knows how to write that genre. Y'all already know how much I love Yellow Wife. I mean, rave about it all the time. And like I said, Sadeqa Johnson is she's probably one of my favorite authors, right now. This book, amazing, just like Yellow Wife. I have 2 copies of this book, and I also read it twice. So it's set in the 40s. There's 2, characters. You have Ruby, who's a young 15-year-old girl that wants to go to college. And then you have Eleanor, who is, I believe, a sophomore at Howard University. And she gets thrown into this world, this Black elite, where they're really about class. They're about that last name. They're about skin color. And she is just so, green to that. It deals with homes to unwanted girls that get pregnant out of wedlock. And you see how Black girls were treated as opposed to white girls. And I know in Sadeqa's research, she said that when she was researching these homes for, researching these homes for girls that got pregnant out of wedlock, she could not find one Black story that prompted her into really writing Ruby's story. It was just unbelievable. I mean, I gave it 5 stars. She's an automatic buy. Next is A Woman of Endurance. I'm not even going to try to say this name because I know I'm going to butcher it. First of all, look at this cover. Amazing. This is a slave narrative, but it's different because, slave narratives, they usually take place in like the South, like Virginia or Alabama or Louisiana. This actually took place in Puerto Rico. And I did not know by reading this book, Afro-Caribbean slavery started in the Caribbean before it made it to the U.S. Had no idea. And also with this book, I like the fact that the main protagonist, again, with slave narratives, a lot of times the protagonist, they are quiet, kind of shy a little bit. They're light-skinned. This Polo was the opposite. Okay, she was dark-skinned. She worked in the fields, but she had to go work into the kitchen because something bad happened to her. And she had a mouth. She'll tell you how she felt. It wasn't that difference, when it comes to like the American, slavery. You still have the brutality and the beating and all of that. Because it was set in Puerto Rico on a sugarcane, plantation, it had a little different aspect. Next is actually not by a Black author. This author is Vietnamese, and it is Dut Child by, because I wrote her name down, how to pronounce it. Nguyen Phan Mai. This came out this year, and oh my goodness, I literally just stumbled on this book, and I was pleasantly surprised. This book talks about, first of all, the Vietnam War. It talks about Amerasians. Amerasians, they are categorized as mixed race. Usually one parent is, Vietnamese and the other parent is white. And you had these soldiers, that fought in Vietnam where they would, get women pregnant, and they would either know and they would leave, or they didn't know that they got the women pregnant. Also, it talks about bar girls. Bar girls, it was a form of prostitution. And, oh girl, the way these soldiers just discarded these women and treated them just, oh my goodness. This author, she did the darn thing. She honestly did. You have 3 perspectives. You have one perspective, which is 2 sisters. They are about 16 and 17 years old. Their family is in debt. They realize, we got to help our family. So they go to Saigon and become bar girls. And Lord, it's a whirlwind. Then you have a white man that was a veteran. He fought in the Vietnam War. He's married now, but he is struggling with PTSD. And that's something that you're going to struggle with the rest of your life. But he goes to Vietnam to kind of first of all, save his marriage, and also too, to kind of get a little bit of closure. But he hasn't told his wife that he actually impregnated a woman when he was a young soldier, and he tries to find her. And then the last character you have is a boy, which he actually is black and he actually is black and Vietnamese. He'll put up for adoption, and he has a hard life because he is black. He wants to go to the promised land. The promised land for him is the US, and he tries to get his, visa and his papers, and it does not work out. And yeah, when I tell you, I did a reading blog on this book. I read it in a day, and I cried, okay, because it was that good. I got every emotion. Y'all, please read this book. This book it's unbelievable. Then the last book I read, which I read this month, I did a reading vlog on it, is Jubilee by Margaret Walker. Girl, it's 5 stars, fantastic. So this actually is based on Margaret Walker's great-grandmother, Violet Brown. But it does have some fictional aspects. So of course it's, on a plantation in Alabama, I believe. You have a young woman that you're not going to forget Violet Brown. It's set before the Civil War, after the Civil War, and then during Reconstruction age. And you just see her navigate through her life. You see her as a child, you see her as a teenager, you see her as a woman. She becomes a wife and a mother, and just everything that she had to go through, when it comes to being enslaved. This is a conversational piece. When I was doing a reading vlog, I was reading you guys passages of it, and I just was outdone because some stuff that Very did, it was like, girl, are you serious? You are a slave. You have to remember that. And that missus, oh, that missus was a mess. This is considered a classic, and when I tell you, it truly is. Okay, so those are the books I read. Now let's go to the books that I want to read. The first is Pachinko by Jin Lee. No, I actually watched the miniseries that was on Apple TV, and it was really, really good. I really enjoyed it, but I know you only get parts of the story. You don't get the full story, and I know this is like a family saga. Jin Lee is a Korean author. It starts in the early 1900s, and like I said, when I was watching the miniseries, I thoroughly enjoyed it. So I was like, you know what? I need to read this. So this is on my list. Next is Kane River. After I read Jubilee, I just was doing some more research about, enslaved people and plantations and things like that. And I know this is like a classic too. This is set in Louisiana. I remember my sister was telling me about it. She was like, you have to read this book. It's fantastic. Next is Island Beneath the Sea by Isabel Allende. I know I butchered that. This author is actually from Peru, and I wanted to get this book. I actually recently bought this. I wanted to get it because it's dealing with a little bit of, I know it's dealing with a tiny bit of about quadroon ball, which was a, basically it was a ball where black women that look white, they would become the mistress of white men, but they would get like land, they would get wealth, and they were like really established. I know for this book, the enslaved woman, she was a product of that. So her father is like a rich, I think plantation owner or something. Her mother was an African woman. Then I think one of the white plantation owner buys her, and she becomes his wife. That's up my alley again. Y'all know how much I love slave narratives. And then lastly is The President's Daughter by Barbara Chase-Riboud. This is a book I also just got recently. Got it from a library sale. And this is about Thomas Jefferson and Sally Hemings' daughter, Harriet. Now, we just know in history a little bit about Harriet. We know that she went to, I believe, Pennsylvania. She passed for white. She got married. And then we don't know anything about, her life after. We don't know when she died or anything like that. There are some letters between her brother, Beverly, and I know she did correspond with her, some of her other siblings. But with Harriet, she actually wasn't free. All of his children, they became free when they were 21 years old, but he knew she wasn't free, but they said Harriet wanted to, get away. So he was like, well, I'm gonna give you some money and I'm gonna have someone accompany you and then you can live your life. And that's exactly what she did, but she had to pass for white. And I mean, all those children, if you really dig and excavate about the Hemings and, the Jeffersons, they all look white and look black at all. And they also had red hair, like Thomas Jefferson. So, I mean, girl, she could easily pass for white. But I am so excited to read this. Also, too, I know this author in the 70s, she wrote a historical fiction book called Sally Hemings, which I want to get my hands on it because that time in our history just fascinates me. Just the fact that he had an open, relationship with Sally and everybody knew it, and he like, anyway, this just is what it is. I saw this at the library, so I had to snatch it up. So yeah, guys, that's it when it comes to my historical fiction books. Again, this is a genre that it's become one of my favorites. It honestly has. So yeah, guys, that's all I have for you, and I'll be back with more Black books. Bye.